at 11, working for you.
And I'm here to let you know that the doctor is in. And this doctor will be on call for the next 4 years.
Across Virginia, the voters have spoken. In overwhelming numbers, they've said that in 2017, it's the Democrats' turn as they sweep all 3 statewide offices on today's ballot. Was it a referendum on President Trump? We'll ask our political analyst.
And closer to home, an upset in the New River Valley as Chris Hirsch becomes a member of the House of Delegates.
And so for them to honor me and hire me for this job is just deeply, deeply humbling.
From across the Commonwealth tonight in Richmond, Northern Virginia, and Central and Southwest Virginia, from the concession speeches to the victory celebrations and the reasons it all happened, we've got the story.
Election coverage 2017 starts right now.
Well, the polls have closed, the results are in, and we've got them all for you. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm John Carl.
And I'm Lindsay Ward. The Commonwealth tonight has a new governor-elect. Virginia's lieutenant governor will be moving up into the governor's mansion.
Democrat Ralph Northam has defeated Republican challenger Ed Gillespie with just over 50% of the vote.
10 News reporter Jessica Jewell joins us now live from Fairfax, where Democrats are celebrating their win. Jessica, fill us in an electrifying atmosphere there.
Absolutely, Lindsay. Hundreds of Ralph Northam supporters are still celebrating, and they have been for hours. That's because tonight was a victory for their entire ticket. Mark Herring, Justin Fairfax, and of course, Ralph Northam, who will become the 73rd governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Although many expected this race to be a nail-biter, they actually called it just over an hour after polls closed. All eyes were on this race to see if Democrats could rebound after Trump's victory last November. And that's what they did tonight. Governor-elect Northam says this is a sign of hope for the entire country.
It's going to take a doctor to heal our differences, to bring unity to our people. And I'm here to let you know that the doctor is in. And this doctor will be on call for the next 4 years.
With these victories tonight, Democratic leaders say they are very hopeful about the midterm elections in 2018 when seats in Congress will be up for grabs. John and Lindsay.
So, Jessica, I understand there was some sort of hiccup, some small altercation during Northam's acceptance speech. He was removed from the stage for a few minutes. It seemed to be something going on in the crowd. What do you know about that?
That's right, Lindsay. Basically, as soon as Northam started his victory speech, there were a few protesters out in the crowd who started chanting "Sanctuary for All" and holding up signs. Obviously, pro-Sanctuary City protesters there. They quickly removed Ralph Northam from the stage, and then security got the protesters out. So it was only a few minutes, a brief hiccup, mostly a night of victory and celebration here. Back to you.
Thank you, Jess. Of course, after a hard-fought battle, former lobbyist Ed Gillespie conceded shortly after Ralph Northam was projected as the governor-elect. Just hours ago, the Republican said that he had called the lieutenant governor to congratulate him on his victory. 10 News reporter Rob Manch joins us now from Richmond, where Gillespie spoke to a room full of supporters. Rob.
All took the stage and congratulated their Democratic opponent.
Well, in contrast to Northam's victory there, Ed Gillespie's party has all cleared out here in Richmond, or outside of Richmond rather, but Ed Gillespie really suffered a resounding defeat to Northam, about 8% in the polls. But when Gillespie took the podium this evening, all of the attacks that have been part of the campaign over the past month gave way to words of praise and humility. Now, Gillespie was surrounded by supporters here at the campaign headquarters, as well as his Republican running mates Jill Vogel and John Adams. Gillespie used his time at the podium to wish his opponent success upon taking office.
Governor-elect Northam is a good man, and I appreciate his service to our country and our Commonwealth, and I wish him nothing but the best success as our 73rd governor, and told him that if I could be helpful to him in making our Commonwealth better, that I would be happy to do anything I could in that regard.
Thank Northam for his service to the country.
So national media outlets began calling the race for Northam before 9 o'clock this evening. And as that was happening, President Donald Trump weighed in with a tweet distancing himself from Gillespie, saying, quote, "Ed Gillespie worked hard but did not embrace me or what I stand for. Don't forget, Republicans won 4 out of 4 House seats, and with the economy doing record numbers, we will continue to win even bigger than before." Now, despite Gillespie's humble remarks there on the podium, all 3 of the Republican candidates said that they will continue to fight for the Republican Party here in Virginia and that they're disappointed in the loss suffered here tonight. In Henrico County, Rob Manch, 10 News, working for you.
Democrat Justin Fairfax, he is elected lieutenant governor tonight, beating out Republican Jill Vogel. A tight race from the very beginning. Fairfax won with just about 130,000 more votes than Jill Vogel. Now, with this win, Fairfax becomes only the second African American to hold statewide office in the Commonwealth. This is the first public office Fairfax has ever held. And Attorney General Mark Herring's win gives Democrats a clean sweep for big seats on the ballot. Herring will keep his job at Attorney General, defeating challenger John Adams. The third of 3 very close races. Herring won with just a little over 50% of the vote. And as we've been saying all night, it was a clean sweep for the Democrats across the ballot in the biggest races here in the Commonwealth. Even President Trump has weighed in on the gubernatorial race. 10 News anchor John Carlin is joined by political analyst Dr. Ed Lynch with a breakdown. John?
Well, thank you, Lindsay, and Ed, thank you once again for being here with us. So,
Thank you.
Gillespie actually did, and a lot was made of this. In fact, one of the questions I asked him when I interviewed him is, would he campaign with President Trump? He's kind of non-committal on that. Then we saw the tweet from President Trump, Trump saying he didn't embrace me enough. Do you think that made a difference?
I do think that made a difference, and I think that Northam's attacks on Gillespie as Enron Ed and lobbyist Ed Gillespie, I think that had the effect of probably keeping a lot of Republican voters home and less enthusiastic about Ed Gillespie than they might have been. And I think what the results tonight show, and congressional Republicans need to take this to heart going forward, is no matter how hard you try, if you're a Republican, you cannot run away from Donald Trump. His fate is your fate. If congressional Republicans don't give him some wins between now and next year is going to look as grim for the Republicans as tonight has.
Yeah, it seemed to me like he was okay with embracing some of Trump's policies and positions, but not the man himself, because he's been so controversial of late. Second question is, were you surprised by the margin of victory tonight?
Yeah, and I think besides the Republicans in Virginia, the big losers tonight were the pollsters, once again. They got it wrong last year in underestimating the support for Donald Trump, and this year they seemingly underestimated the resentment and the anger at Donald Trump. Most polls were predicting a close race, maybe 4 or 5 points, something like this. Nobody was predicting a 9-point victory for the Democrats, nor certainly the enormous pickups that they're going to have in the House of Delegates. So the pollsters got it wrong again.
Okay, so in the 30 seconds we have left, and we'll talk about the Chris Hurst race coming up after the commercial break in a little bit, but what's next for Trump? Does Trump have to reconfigure? Do the Republicans have to re-rack? What happens next?
They do, and it's now the pressure is on the congressional Republican leadership, because they are as much the authors of tonight's defeat as President Trump is, or Ralph Northam is of course, has to be given credit for his victory. Congressional Republicans need to understand that if Republicans continue to be disenchanted and frustrated because nothing is getting done in Washington, that they're going to stay home again, and the results are going to be every bit as bad. So the pressure is on congressional leadership now.
All right, Ed, please stick around, because I've got some more questions to ask you. So we're going to go through some more results, and we'll come back and have some more analysis on some of the local races coming up in a little bit. But right now, we'll send it back to Lindsay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Another closely watched race here in our area, the battle for the 12th district seat in the Virginia House of Delegates. Democrat Chris Hurst defeats incumbent Republican Joseph Yost. It's a race that saw record-breaking campaign funds in the New River Valley and a lot of media attention. 10 News reporter Tommy Lopez joins us now live from Blacksburg, where Hurst just spoke to his supporters. Tommy?
Yeah, there are a lot of excited people here in Blacksburg. Democrat Chris Hurst is still meeting with supporters as they congratulate him on this win. He's still being congratulated by many people here at the Hyatt Place Hotel in Blacksburg. He's a newcomer to politics, and he was greeted with some enthusiasm here. You can hear the roaring applause as he stepped into this room just about an hour ago to address supporters. He spoke about this being day zero for him, that he wants to go to Richmond in the House of Delegates and work hard from here on out. And he talked about how he wants to support and represent everyone in the 12th district, not just the people who voted for him.
Deeply humbling, and I'm very grateful. You know, the people that were in that room have put in the miles, knocking on doors, have sat in a chair for hours on end, making phone calls, making sure that we connected with voters all across the district.
Right before we spoke to Hurst, he turned to a supporter and said, hey, we have a lot of celebrating left to go tonight, as I'm sure he will do that. The final numbers show he won by about 8 percentage points, around 54% to Joseph Yost's 46%, as he unseats the Republican who had held this office for the last 6 years. Live in Blacksburg, Tommy Lopez, 10 News working for you.
As Tommy mentioned, Republican Joseph Yost has conceded that race. Yost had held the 12th district seat since 2011. 10 News reporter Arisha Jones joins us live from Giles County. That's where Yost gave his concession speech tonight. Arisha, bring us up to date. Very quiet behind you.
That's right, John. The night didn't end as expected for Joseph Yost and many of his supporters across the New River Valley, and especially here in Giles County, where he had tons of support. Now, Joseph Yost and his wife walked through the crowd today, shaking hands of the small group of supporters that gathered here at the Country Club tonight for what they hope will be a victory re-election party. Yost thanked his family and those who cheered him on for the work he's done for education, mental health, and also the Mountain Valley Pipeline project since he was first elected as a delegate 6 years ago.
And again, I just want to thank everybody. We've got a lot to be proud. We've got a lot to be thankful for and what we've done together. And that is Joseph out. Have a good evening and thanks for coming.
Yost says the plans right now is to spend more time with his family, and after his speech at the podium, he and his family declined to give any more interviews to the media. Live in Giles County, Arisha Jones, 10 News, working for you.
The fight for the 8th District House of Delegates is over. Republican incumbent Greg Habib has been re-elected with more than 60% of the vote. Habib defeated Democrat Steve McBride. McBride has never before run for elected office, but won his primary race by a wide margin. We spoke with Delegate Habib tonight after his victory. He said the focus of his campaign was always on how to help local families, and he's ready to get back to work.
Anytime that you put yourself out there for the voters and you carry a message and they respond so favorably, it's obviously very uplifting, and it's really humbling to get to go back to Richmond and continue to serve the people of the New River and Roanoke Valleys.
The 8th District, which includes Salem, Craig County, and parts of Roanoke and Montgomery counties, has been a Republican stronghold.
In the race for the 7th District representative, Republican Larry Rush faced off against Democrat Florette Kettner. Rush will take the seat in the House with 66% of the votes, meaning that he defeated Kettner with a margin of almost 2-1. Rush has been a member of the House since 2012.
In the 17th District, Republican Chris Head took on Democrat Juna Osborne. Head won with 60% of the vote, meaning he will keep the seat he has held since he was originally elected back in 2011.
Let's look at the 23rd District. Democrat Natalie Short went head-to-head with Republican T. Scott Garrett and lost. Garrett, the incumbent, will keep his seat with 65% of the vote. The former Lynchburg City Council member has served in the House since 2010.
And in the last House District race in our area, incumbent Republican Ben Klein took on challenger independent John Winfrey. Klein will keep his seat representing the 24th District after winning with a little more than 70% of the votes. This election will be the 9th time he has won a seat in Virginia's House of Delegates.
And of course, results are still coming in for many of the races across our area. We'll have more of your election coverage coming up after the break.
Close.
Bye.
For the first time in over a decade, the town of Blacksburg has a new mayor. 3 independents faced off for the seat in a tightly contested race.
In the end, the Vice Mayor, Leslie Hager-Smith, won with 39% of the vote, defeating Town Council member Krisha Chakra, who came in second with 36% of the votes, and newcomer Edward Lawhorn, who finished third with 24% of the votes. Leslie Hager-Smith will replace Ron Rordam, who's been the mayor there since 2006.
And in Christiansburg, two independents faced off for the mayor's seat. Incumbent Mayor Mike Barber faced off with party member Roger Woolwine. Barber easily kept his seat, defeating Woolwine with nearly 65% of the vote. Barber has been serving the town of Christiansburg since 2000 when he was elected to town council. He became the town's mayor back in 2014. It was a race that garnered headlines across the Commonwealth as a former television news anchor beats out the Republican incumbent in the 12th district. Chris Hurst will now be representing parts of the New River Valley. 10 News political analyst Dr. Ed Lynch joins us again, this time to take a look at the 12th district race. John?
Thank you, Lindsay, and Ed, once again, appreciate your time here tonight.
All right.
Chris Hurst's win, would you call that an upset?
Yes, I would. Anytime that a first-time candidate for office defeats a multi-term incumbent, that has to be considered an upset. And this was a district that had been pretty friendly to Republicans over the years. It was a district in which he did not defeat a hardcore ideological Republican, but a more moderate Republican. So yeah, I think it has to be considered an upset and a very solid win on Mr. Hurst's part.
Yeah, I noticed in watching the returns come in tonight as we look at some of the victory party here from Chris that Montgomery County came out in huge numbers for Chris compared to the numbers that they came out for Yost 2 years ago. But so now I noticed this evening that Senator Warner, in his remarks at the national or statewide Democratic headquarters tonight, mentioned Chris Hurst. He said, "Remember this name." As if he was thinking that Chris was a man of the future for the Democrats in Virginia. Would you think that would be the case?
Well, it's possible, of course, but there are a couple of things that are working against that. Number one, the Democratic wins were so big today that there's going to be a lot of jockeying for position and jockeying for power that the Democrats haven't had in the General Assembly for some time, and they're eager to get their hands on that. And Chris, for all of his star power, is a freshman member of the House of Delegates. The other thing is that at the moment, Chris Hurst is a famous person. He's a former anchor. He has that backstory. But once he gets to the House of Delegates, he's going to be a politician. And whether or not he can make that transition and keep that popularity and keep people thinking about his story as when he starts casting votes and when he starts making people unhappy with some of those votes, that's going to be a serious challenge for him.
Okay, so we'll see how he does down the road. But you were surprised also with the margin of victory there tonight.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, it was an upset. And then when the wins relatively big, if it hadn't been for some late votes coming in Giles County, it would have been even bigger.
That's right, yeah. And I think that many of these House of Delegate races is again, this is really where we see the anger at Donald Trump, because these were safe incumbents in many places. In many cases, they lost and people voted against them because they had that R next to their name. And I think that's really where we're seeing that. And a lot of that is also frustrated Republicans who stayed home because they're not seeing any progress in Washington.
Right. Okay. Dr. Ed Lynch.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Still ahead on 10 News at 11, talk about a great election day, but we could be drying up for tomorrow in the weather department. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Hanowich will have a full look at your forecast and when we could see that sun again. 30 days.
Welcome back, friends. I'm Storm Team 10 meteorologist Jeff Hanowich. Pretty quiet on the radar, maybe a little bit of drizzle around. We have some fog around. We're going to talk more about visibilities here in a second. As you head out the door, really for the next 24 hours or so, don't expect to see a lot in the way of clear skies. Tomorrow looks to be pretty overcast for us, and that's going to hold temperatures down into the upper 40s. We're going to have some areas of light rain and drizzle around, especially the first half of the day. As we head into the day on Thursday, I do think that we're going to start out mostly gray. I'm cautiously optimistic that as we head into Thursday afternoon, we may start to see a little more sun, and that should warm us up a bit into the low to mid 50s. Here we go, future tracker showing overnight tonight being a night where we're going to be cloudy. I would say between 5 and 6:30 in the morning, we're going to start to see more rain showers moving back in. It looks like the best chance for rain tomorrow will lie from around 6 a.m. through around about noon, okay? by around noon, a lot of the lighter showers are gone. In its wake, we're going to have some patchy drizzle around as we head into the afternoon. So we head into tomorrow night, we are looking pretty cloudy, but on Thursday, after morning clouds, looks like we may start to see a little more sunshine as we head, say, beyond 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Visibilities are something else, or they have been something else throughout the course of the day today. The visibilities have been less than a mile towards the highlands, towards the southern Shenandoah, even out across parts of the Roanoke Valley and Lynchburg. I'm here to tell you that the visibilities have improved a little bit. As you're driving, I think what you're going to notice tonight is that as you're driving on the roads are going to be fine. You look up. Say you're driving on a mountain road, you look up, you're not going to be able to see the top of the mountain as the fog is pretty dense when you get into the higher elevations. I will tell you that that fog will likely lower here later tonight, so please be careful traveling first thing in the morning. 32 in Hot Springs, 43 in Martinsville, also in Blacksburg, 47 Hillsville and Galax. Your forecast for tonight, we are looking cloudy with some drizzle around. There'll be some fog around too. Lows in the 30s to near 40, and then for tomorrow, we are looking at high temperatures topping out mainly in the 40s. Your extended forecast showing that the sunniest day over the next probably 3 days will be on Friday. Partly to mostly cloudy on Veterans Day with highs in the middle 40s. Another chance for some spotty showers Sunday. Should see more sun Monday and Tuesday with warming temperatures. John, Lindsay.
All right, thank you, Jeff. And we have more election results ahead, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Roanoke City's incumbent Commonwealth's attorney defeats his first challenger since the late 70s. Don Caldwell will continue to be the lead prosecutor for the Star City. He was challenged by Democrat Melvin Hill, who lost a very close race by only 8%. Caldwell was first appointed to the position back in 1979 and has since run unopposed for the position.
Lynchburg City's Chief Deputy Commonwealth's Attorney will be getting a promotion. However, Bethany Harrison defeated Carlos Hutcherson to take the spot. The current Commonwealth's Attorney for the city did not seek re-election as he is retiring. This is the first time since 2006 that Lynchburg has had a new lead prosecutor.
Tim Allen will keep his seat as Roanoke City Sheriff. The 26-year law enforcement veteran handedly defeated two challengers. Allen took over 60% of the vote, leaving McLaren Westland with a little over 30% and William Billingsley with only about 8%. Allen has been the city sheriff since he was elected in November of 2013.
And Pulaski County passed its school bond. 65% of voters in Pulaski County voted to finance the bond. This means up to $47 million will be spent to build an entirely new middle school. It will replace the two existing middle schools in the town of Pulaski and in Dublin.
Floyd County passes a proposed levy tax on food and beverages. It was a close race, with the tax only passing by a little over 250 votes. As we've reported, the tax will only go on prepared foods, not groceries, and cannot exceed 4%. The county says it will use the money for improvements for police, fire and rescue, and trash collection.
And you'll now be able to buy mixed alcoholic beverages at restaurants in the town of Boones Mill. More than 75% of voters said yes to the referendum. In order to even get on the ballot, Franklin County Distilleries, which led the charge, had to get signatures from more than 150 voters in the town. This will allow the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board to give licenses to restaurants so they will be able to sell mixed drinks by the glass.
And these races are only a small fraction of the dozens that went on across the Commonwealth.
We have a complete list of the races across Virginia and more at WSLS.com/election results.
Thank you for joining us for all of your election coverage.
Jimmy Fallon's up next. Have a great night.